Hey Bazaar Marketers, it's Tim from Bazaar Marketing here, and today I'm sitting down with Justin Bright, owner, CEO, founder of Brighter Logistics, and I gotta ask him a few questions about how he's grown his business. He's taken it from zero to a multi-million-dollar business in what, 5 years or so? 6 years?
We're 7 years.
Oh, we're 7 years. My apologies.
But yeah, we're on pace for 2018. We'll end up somewhere between 10 and 12 million. We've had some great growth. Don't forget that I'm also the janitor. So I do a lot of things, and the janitor is also one of them. So,
as any of you business owners know, we got to wear all the hats. So I've known Justin for about 5 years, probably. It was a referral from another customer of mine. Shout out to John at Plunkett and Cooney. And we connected back then, and we did promotional products for him, and we kind of migrated into doing social media and other things for him. And Justin really gets it as far as putting marketing packages together and things for his clients and taking his business to another level. But there's a lot more behind the scenes that I want to kind of pick his brain on and ask him, you know, when you started, what you'd have done differently now that you're 7 years in. What's one of the things that, hey, that was a big mistake, I should have did something different?
I don't think I've made, I don't like to call them mistakes. I'll be honest. They're not mistakes, because guess what? I've learned from them. And the way that I look at mistakes are things that I don't learn from or I don't get better from. And look, everywhere I've been, I've learned from every job that I've had in the past, and that's helped me. And you know, if I was to go back and maybe do things to help me get there faster, I'll explain it that way.
Right.
And marketing, I think, is a big part of it. In this industry that I live in the transportation world, as a broker, very few brokers understand and actually are utilizing, you know, the Facebooks, the Twitters, the Instagrams, LinkedIn especially, as well as they should. And you and I sat down and said, look, you offered it to me once before, and I said, no, I can't spend that kind of money, and it wasn't that much. And I'm like, I just wasn't willing to let it go. And I don't know, it was probably about a year later, I came back to you and said, you know, I had these people approach me, and he goes, and you're like, you remember I also told you the same thing a year ago. So, you know, could I change something? That's something that I should have done earlier, right? But you and I had a back and forth conversation, and I said, look, Tim, I'm going to give this 3 months. If it doesn't work, I'm going to have to like back out. And you said, oh, I get it, you know, as long as you're at least going to give it 3 months, because I think you need that. 3 months came. We really didn't have a whole lot of traction. 6 months came, we had a little bit of traction, and but again, we're trying something that my industry doesn't do. This isn't, selling widgets, you know, on Facebook, right? So it's a lot different, and a lot of my customers don't live on Facebook, and a lot of trial and error with you and I. You've been great about that and making it happen for me on the other side of it. We're well over a year. The traction that we're making now is phenomenal. The things that are starting to happen, the people that are reaching out to me on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram, you know, we have a Pinterest page. Go check it out. I personally don't get on there very often, but hey, it's there, right? We have YouTube, and that's something that you and I are learning about, and we're going to continue to drive business there. And none of that happens without you and making that happen for me. So I'm appreciative. So that is one thing. If I could have gone back and maybe did it sooner, right? That's a learning curve for me. You know, you and I both subscribe to the mindset of, you know, the stuff that Grant Cardone talks about in the 10X rule and that kind of stuff. And you work harder, you get smarter. And I was just at his 10X Growth Con down in Vegas, And
so jealous.
he said, look, if you really want to make things happen, right, you have to be willing to spend more than anybody else when it comes to that. I'm not there yet, but that's where I want to get to. So when you set a $500 or $1,000 or whatever your budget is, for Facebook and, the social media platforms, that's one of the things that will continue to grow with you. And we're starting to see that come. We had some great success yesterday. Just yesterday, I think I got 15, 20 leads just like that people looking for me, where I didn't have to pick up the phone.
Right.
How awesome is that?
And I think it boils down to we've really changed the way we're putting together your content too. A lot more video, a lot more Justin on screen. And when we first started, I don't think you were hesitant. We just didn't do that. But now it's like he's the face of the business. We've got to get him out there. People got to resonate with him. And I think that's really catapulted this last few months, in my opinion.
Agree.
It's gotten, to a level of, like you said, people are now calling you from the content you're putting out, and it boils down to some good content. And it's kind of what we're doing here today. We're, adding some content to his arsenal, and you can't put a price on that kind of stuff. And a lot of people don't get it. Oh, I'm going to put one little Facebook ad out or one video out and it's going to work. And it's been a long haul here, and it's a learning process for all of us. His industry is different than what I've dealt with others, and he's been gracious enough to tag along, and we all are learning as we go. So it's been a great process.
This process changes every day, because guess what? Tomorrow somebody's gonna kid with my kids all the time. I'm like, what's that Instatext thing, right? And I'm like, and I keep thinking to myself, man, I should actually come out with that. How great would that be?
Right.
To send a text that instantly go. There's so many cool things. It's going to change tomorrow, and we're going to have to continue to learn. But if you want to make it happen, like I feel we're making it happen here for our customers through help with yours and Tim, and it's just like you got to be willing to spend the money. You got to be willing to not just, and you and I have had this conversation about content. You keep using the word good, and I keep using the word just put content up, right? And I'm more of the mindset of whatever Tim does, because he's the expert. Let him do it. Let him go out and make it happen. And it's content. Something's better than nothing, right? And we've been using Chloe, my puppy, right? We're using Chloe a lot.
And that's getting lots of traction. So, and it is, and when he says good versus just content, and that's I think it boils down to that as well. The more you can put out there, and some people are going to resonate with this, some are resonating with the dog, others are not looking at the dog, they're looking at what he has to say, what his staff has to say. So it's just being everywhere, and that takes a lot of work and a lot of time. And we sit down here twice a month and do some videos, and we talk almost daily, it seems like.
We do talk a lot. We do talk.
So it's a good process for me. Our company, Bazaar, is learning from them as well, because we're hitting a market that we never hit before, and we're in platforms, kind of familiar with all platforms, but just taking them in different levels. So I want to touch a little bit too. That's a social media marketing end of it, but on your growth, customer service has had to been a part of that. So if you can talk about what the value of your customer service and your staff is to your growth as well. I think that's a huge part of any business.
There is actually nothing that's more important than the customer service and my employees. And the core values for me here at Brighter Logistics, it goes employee first. Right? Always my employee first. And we treat them like family. And then my customers are there because of my employees. If I don't have my employees, I also don't have my customers.
Right.
So if my customer and my customer service team doesn't do the job that they do, and they do a great job, if they don't do that, I lose my customers. I get it that a lot of people think like the customer comes first. You can't have customers without the employee. But it's one of those things for me. We're at a point now where, you know, we're not scraping by like we did when we first started. So whatever we had to do to keep that customer, and we, you know, we would do that, and we still do that. But the difference today is I can take that customer and I can put my employee above it and treat them like the family, because that's who they are. And it's actually made our customer service 100 times better, because now they feel the love from myself, from Wendy. They feel the family atmosphere, and they take that and they give the exact same thing to the customer, right? That customer is not going to go anywhere when we go as far as finding out, you know, are they married? Do they have kids? Do they have pets? Where do they go on vacations? What do they like to do? We send them cookies on their birthday. We do a lot more things than what I think a lot of people are willing to do.
Right.
And that becomes, because of the training and the mindset and the thought process of things here and how we treat our employees. And they're not just employees, they're part of our family.
Right.
I joke with the guys here and Jen, my office manager. I joke with all of them that, look, I spend more time with you than I actually do my own family outside of my wife who works with us. But you know, I do. I'm here 8-9 hours with her every day. Right. My kids go to school that time, and then they have athletics afterwards. And then they get home at 7 o'clock. Well, from 7 to 9:30 at bedtime, I get those 2.5 hours. So, you know, that's my family. You know, that's my extended family, and that's how we treat them. And I thank you for asking, because it is extremely important to us here to make sure that everybody's treated the way that they deserve to be treated.
I think that's so huge. Most businesses, I think they don't look at it that way. They don't put the employee first. And I believe, you know, you could probably leave for 2 weeks and your employees would run this like you would run it, because you've treated them like a family member. They have your values, your philosophy toward the customer. And I remember sometimes when I had some employees that started and I would hear what they would say to a customer, and I was like, I would never have said that. But it was my fail for not training them and teaching them and making them feel like I feel about the passion that I feel about the business. So I learned as an employer, you know, many moons ago that that's what you've got to do and put them first. So I commend you on that. I know that's one of your big successes as well. So
it is, and still to this day, if I see an email that I might be on and I don't like one word that's in there, right? I'll go to them and say, hey, you know what? I would have maybe just changed this a little bit, because look, email is the hardest thing, like text messaging. Like email is the hardest thing to really read if you're sincere about it. So I'm teaching them, and you know, if any of my customers are watching this, they'll be the first ones to attest that I'm like, look, after everything I say, thank you for your business. It does truly mean something. And because that's a way to soften it at the end. And for those of you, for those salespeople out there that are watching this, that's something that you should absolutely do. We send, it's absolutely something that the customer service team has to do, and I don't think I've even talked to you about this, but I've got 6 people on that team, so every one of them, every single day, has to send 5 emails to the customer telling them thank you for their business, no matter what. So 30 customers a day, we touch 30 customers every single day saying thank you from the customer service rep. And so we get 150 customers a week, right? That we are hitting with a thank you. It's powerful.
It is. That's amazing.
And now we're taking that thank you maybe a step further, and I'm teaching and training because I got them into the habit of sending the emails, we're taking it a step further. And this is where we're really getting to understand and know our customer. And, you know, it's taken a lot of training for me to get, you know, my team to understand that I think it's important. And this is where we're learning about the customer. This is where I was telling you that, look, we want to know if they're married, if they have kids, if they have grandkids. We ask for their birthdays and all that stuff. It's amazing when you open up as a human and treat the other person like a human and go, hey, you know what? And people that we always thought that were kind of maybe a little bit standoffish to us, and the amount of information that when you ask them a few questions about them, what they'll give you.
Yeah.
And that's the human aspect of it. And
most people want to talk about themselves, and if you want to listen to what you ask them about themselves, they're just gonna, you know, give you stuff that you didn't maybe want to know too much about.
sometimes we get more than we want to know,
but that's fine.
It's better than not knowing enough.
Right, exactly. So, and I think that's one of the biggest things. I heard a quote one time that people leave your customers will leave you because they didn't feel appreciated. And it's not because you did bad service or anything, you just didn't say thank you to them enough. So to hear you going away above and beyond those kind of thank yous makes me feel like I gotta step up my game. So I'll publicly say thank you for your business, Justin.
Well, we appreciate you, Tim. You've done a lot for us, and it's been a great partnership. And
absolutely.
But it's the candidness that you and I can have, and like maybe I don't agree with you, and I'm not always going to agree with you, and we've learned together. So that's any good business relationship is going to have that.
Right.
And I tell my customers all the time, look, you and I aren't always going to agree. But at the end, I'm going to make sure at the end that you tell me that you're completely satisfied.
Yeah.
That comes from my enterprise rent-a-car days when I was 23 years old, and you know, I'm washing cars in suits, right? You want to talk about a program that teaches customer service. That's where I learned a lot of it from, and it drove it to here. And you ever take a survey from Enterprise Rent-A-Car, they want to know if you're completely satisfied. Well, that has resonated with me 20 years later, and I'm not quite that long. I'm not 43. But it's one of those things that still today, I want to make sure my customer is completely satisfied. Right? Because anything less than that, it leaves room for that customer to leave.
Exactly.
If they're not completely satisfied, if they're just satisfied, that leaves the room for my competitor to come in.
Slip in the crack, yeah.
It's just that little bit, that difference between satisfied and completely satisfied. And I ask a lot, are you completely satisfied? Can you tell me you're completely satisfied?
I like that, putting the completely in front of there, because I've never really thought of it that way, but that makes it a whole nother, you know, takes it a whole nother level.
It's a little bit different than what most are willing to do. And, you know, thank you to Enterprise Rent-A-Car for the great training that I received as a young man, and that's resonated with me to this day.
Yeah, you've carried it out for sure. So, well, again, I can't thank you enough for sitting down with me today and sharing with some of our viewers, and continued success. And thanks for letting us come.
Thank you. And I hope this wasn't too long.
No, not at all. It's all good stuff. So
thank you.
Thanks a lot.